When the market is crashing, most people panic. Smart people pay attention, but a tiny group of people are quietly noticing something hidden in all the red candles, and if they're right, this could become the biggest wealth transfer event Hedera holders have ever seen. Because while everything else is falling apart, Hedera is making moves nobody expected during a crash. Partnerships, expansions, tokenization breakthroughs, and here's the part nobody's ready for. This changes everything. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type "interested" in the comments, and I will give you a heart. When a market crashes, most people freeze. They stare at their portfolio like it betrayed them, waiting for someone online to tell them whether to breathe or panic. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The crash doesn't stop the real builders. It exposes them. And right now, while the entire market is acting like the world is ending, Hedera is doing something unusual. It's accelerating, not stabilizing, not surviving. Accelerating. That alone should make you pause, because projects usually hide when things get bad. Hedera is announcing more developments during the downturn than most networks announced during the bull run. And if you understand what that means, you start seeing what everyone else misses. This isn't a coincidence, it's preparation. Well, let's break down what's happening, but let's talk about it from where you stand. Someone living through an economy that feels like it's shrinking faster than your patience. When money gets tight, you want clarity. You want to know where future growth is coming from. You want to know which projects are still building while everybody else is burning their roadmap in the fireplace. And Hedera, it's doubling down on the one narrative that every institution cares about: tokenization. Not hype-tenization, real, regulatory compliant, institution-facing tokenization, the type that BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, and major global exchanges act compliance-heavy tokenization standards in the world, the standard used for permissioned assets, securities, and regulated financial instruments. If that sounds boring, let me translate. It's the standard you use when you want big money institutions to enter your ecosystem without breaking any laws. And integrating it means Hedera isn't trying to impress retail. It's preparing for the moment traditional finance decides to jump fully on chain. People keep talking about the next bull run. Hedera is building the infrastructure for the next financial system. And while everyone else is distracted by price action, Hedera dropped something even larger: a full ecosystem expansion through new council partnership categories. For years, people complained that the governing council was too close, too limited, too exclusive. Now Hedera is opening the doors strategically, up to 45 new strategic partners and more than 50 community partners being added, with access to workshops, development support, working groups, and direct collaboration with companies like Google, IBM, Standard Bank, LG, Boeing, and more. This isn't another partnership announcement that goes nowhere. This is Hedera building a global network of organizations that can actually deploy real-world use cases. But here's what will shock most people. This expansion didn't happen during a bull market when everything felt safe and easy. It happened during a market crash. When everyone else is cutting budgets, scaling back, and pretending they're building quietly, Hedera is widening its ecosystem and onboarding institutions. That's the difference between hype projects and infrastructure. Infrastructure doesn't care about price, it cares about adoption. If you're watching this and you're serious about being early, not lucky, make sure you join our YouTube membership. We break down these deeper updates, the hidden opportunities, the long-term plays, and we help you understand what actually builds wealth in a space full of noise. If you want to be part of that inner circle, tap the join button. Now let's keep going. Because Hedera isn't stopping with tokenization and partnerships. It's already delivering results. Remember when the Nairobi Securities Exchange joined the governing council back in 2024? Everyone forgot about it. The usual comments: nothing will happen. Council members don't build. It's just a logo. But here we are. They just launched the NSE Innovation Lab with Hedera and Hashgraph Foundation as the first strategic technology partners. Let that sink in. An entire national securities exchange, the financial backbone of Kenya, is now building a digital asset and tokenization engine powered by Hedera. Not a pilot, not a proof of concept, a full strategic initiative. This is what real adoption looks like: slow, quiet, boring to most people, and then suddenly massive. And all of this, every partnership, every integration, every expansion is happening while prices are down. That's the part people misunderstand because the market crash is distracting them from the only thing that matters. Growth is still happening. And if a network grows during the worst part of the cycle, imagine what happens when sentiment flips. Hedera isn't chasing hype. It's positioning itself to dominate the sectors that institutions actually care about. Regulated finance, tokenized assets, enterprise-grade compliance, identity frameworks, and real-world applications. Most people want quick gains, but long-term wealth, that comes from understanding the difference between noise and infrastructure. And right now, infrastructure is being built quietly on Hedera. If part 1 showed you the foundation Hedera is laying during a market crash, part 2 is where you start to see the pattern most investors completely miss. Because every time the market dips, people scream, nothing is happening, everything is dead. And yet behind the scenes, Hedera is stitching together the exact architecture the future financial system needs. Not wants, needs. And nothing proves that more than the direction of its partnerships, especially with companies who don't gamble on hype cycles. Companies whose operations deal with regulations, cross-vendor payments, tokenized bonds, real-time ESG reporting, and compliance frameworks. In other words, the adult table. Let's start with the tokenization wave because the magnitude of what's happening here is beyond what retail is even equipped to notice. Hedera's asset tokenization studio is already one of the most enterprise-focused systems in the entire space. But integrating ERC 3643 wasn't just a software upgrade, it was Hedera tapping directly into the global rails that institutions already trust. Hedera's E3643 isn't a random token standard. It's the backbone behind over $32 billion 0 cents in tokenized assets, used in regulated environments where identity, compliance, and legal frameworks matter. When Hedera integrated that standard, it told the world something bold. We're not building a playground, we're building a financial infrastructure layer. And that message is being received loudly because the companies involved with ERC 3643 aren't small. We're talking about Arcax, which tokenizes major financial instruments, Apex, Aztec Group, Venium, and DA Piper, one of the largest law firms in the world, which already built regulatory platforms on Hedera. When this caliber of entity aligns with Hedera's tokenization ecosystem, it's not a coincidence. It's a signal that compliance-based digital assets are maturing and they're choosing Hedera as a home base. And the more regulated the asset, the more valuable the infrastructure becomes because institutions can't afford uncertainty. They need a network built for accountability, security, and global interoperability. But tokenization is only one lane of Hedera's expansion. The new strategic partner and community partner programs added another dimension entirely. See, most blockchains brag about partnerships the way influencers brag about sponsorships: shallow, temporary, meaningless. Hedera, on the other hand, is building a pipeline for collaboration that is structurally baked into the future of the network. Up to 45 strategic partners, including fintechs, enterprise service providers, AI companies, supply chain innovators, and sustainability organizations will gain access to Hedera's workshops, working groups, technical development resources, and council-level networking. This isn't a handshake, this is long-term co-building. And then there are the 50+ community partners, ranging from startups to integrators to advocacy groups. People underestimate the power of community builders in enterprise ecosystems. These are the people and organizations who actually deploy the use cases. They're the ones who bring tokenized assets to life, onboard businesses, and create the ecosystem loops that later attract institutions. Hedera didn't just expand its council. It built an entire mid-layer of connection between developers, enterprises, regulators, and global innovators. That's how you scale adoption, by building an ecosystem, not a fan club. Now let's talk about the Nairobi Securities Exchange, because what they just launched is not only proof that Hedera's council isn't symbolic, but validation that tokenization is becoming a real movement across emerging markets. The NSE Innovation Lab isn't a marketing stunt. It's a multi-year transformation engine designed to modernize capital markets across Africa. It will accelerate tokenization, digital assets, sustainable finance tools, and intelligent market data systems. Hedera and Hashgraph Foundation are the first strategic technology partners in that entire lab. Think about that. A national stock exchange, the financial heart of Kenya, is building on Hedera, and they're doing it not for speculation, but for access, liquidity, transparency, and financial inclusion. And that's where the real story sits. While the broader market panics over red candles, national exchanges, global enterprises, major banks, tokenization giants, and regulatory compliant ecosystems are integrating with Hedera quietly, consistently, and strategically, because they see what the average investor doesn't. Hedera is built for long-term structural relevance, not short-term hype. Most blockchains chase attention. Hedera is chasing adoption, and adoption takes time, but when it arrives, it never leaves. But you don't have to time the market when you understand the direction of the technology. And Hedera's direction is clear: globally compliant tokenization, enterprise-grade infrastructure, and real-world integration. That's what everyone misses about Hedera. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's foundational. By the time you reach this last part, the pattern becomes impossible to deny. Hedera isn't trying to win the crypto race by being louder, it's winning by being useful. And nothing demonstrates that more clearly than what happens when the entire market is melting down. Most projects disappear, Hedera accelerates, most chains slow development, Hedera expands. Most networks panic, Hedera partners with national exchanges, global banks, AI stakeholders, and tokenization pioneers. That alone should force every investor to stop and ask, if Hedera is moving this aggressively now, what happens when the market actually recovers? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Cycles don't reward the loudest ecosystem. They reward the most prepared. And Hedera is preparing for something bigger than a bull run. It's preparing for a complete restructuring of global finance. You see it clearly in the timeline. When ERC 3643 integration goes live, it's not because Hedera wants to chase a temporary narrative. It's because the world's compliance-heavy institutions need a neutral, secure, enterprise-grade network to tokenize assets without breaking regulations. When Fortune 500 companies join the governing council, it's not because they're collecting blockchain stickers. It's because they need a trusted, future-proofed infrastructure layer that can handle real-world throughput. When the Nairobi Securities Exchange launches its innovation lab with Hedera as a core partner, it's not because they want to explore blockchain. It's because Africa is positioned to leapfrog outdated financial rails and go straight to digital asset infrastructure. And Hedera gives them a foundation strong enough to build on. Everything happening right now tells the same story. Hedera is moving toward becoming a global settlement layer for assets, data, compliance, supply chains, and identity systems. And while most people argue about price action, long-term players are positioning themselves decades ahead. But one of the most misunderstood pieces of this story, and arguably the most important, is the subtle shift toward enterprise-grade decentralization. Hedera isn't just adding partners, it's restructuring how those partners engage with the network. The new strategic and community partnership programs expand the network's surface area massively. Instead of 39 council members making decisions in a silo, Hedera is now constructing a multi-tiered ecosystem where enterprises, builders, integrators, fintechs, and community organizations influence the network's future direction. That's how decentralization looks in the real world. Not random validators with no accountability, but structured, auditable participation from organizations who actually have skin in the game. And the more Hedera grows this ecosystem, the harder it becomes for any single point of failure, regulatory, technological, or market-driven, to derail its trajectory. That is the hallmark of a network built for institutional longevity. If you zoom out, you'll notice something else too. Hedera has quietly become a hub for interoperability between real-world assets, AI-driven agents, identity layers, and compliance frameworks. When Tokeni's T-Rex standard integrates, it brings KYC/KYB linked digital assets into the Hedera ecosystem. When Hashgraph Foundation partners with NSE, it extends tokenization into emerging financial markets. When Hedera expands MCP functionality into AI apps like ChatGPT and Claude, it opens the door for AI-driven financial automation. And when enterprises like Shinhan Bank, Standard Bank, and Australia Payments Plus use Hedera for cross-vendor settlements, it validates the network's ability to handle real, regulated money movement, not hypothetical DeFi speculation. Each development reinforces the others. Tokenization brings institutional-grade assets. Compliance frameworks keep regulators satisfied. Enterprise partners bring real-world use cases. AI integrations automate workflows. Governance expansion strengthens decentralization. And partnerships like PwC's ESG platform, Arcax's tokenization tools, and WBTC integration fill in the missing infrastructural layer. It's a web, and Hedera is intentionally positioning itself at the center. Now here's the kicker. All of this is happening during a down market, when the spotlight is off and attention is low. That's when the foundational work is done. That's when the future giants separate themselves from temporary winners. And that's why this moment, not the bull run, not the H, not the hype cycle, is the most important time to be paying attention to Hedera. Because when the cycle flips, and it will, investors will suddenly ask, why is Hedera so far ahead? How did all of this happen so fast? And the answer will be simple. It didn't happen fast. It happened patiently, methodically, strategically, while everyone else was distracted. Hedera has spent this entire downturn building quietly, expanding aggressively, partnering globally, and integrating standards that the rest of the industry isn't even ready for. And whether people admit it or not, the next big wave of blockchain adoption won't be driven by speculation. It will be driven by tokenization, compliance, and real-world utility. That's Hedera's home turf. And that's what everyone misses.